There's a major appeal in, quote, the amp that can do everything. You know what I mean, the one-and-done Swiss Army knife amp. Something that can go from home practice to rehearsals to the stage to the studio and perform equally well in each situation. And that's exactly what Supro promises with the Airwave. But did they stick the landing? Let's find out. Welcome to Get Offset. My name is Emily, and your eyes look especially beautiful today. Very radiant. Sweetwater is sponsoring this video, but thoughts and opinions are all mine. Ears are all yours, though. By the way, if you want to skip straight to sound samples or any other elements of this amp, hit up the chapter links in the video description. You'll also find an affiliate link to Sweetwater there. Even if you buy something else with that link, a portion of that sale gets shared with me, so it's a great way to support this channel doing things that, let's be honest with ourselves and each other, we were probably going to do anyway. Let's talk specs. The Supro Airwave is a 25-watt 1x12 combo amp with a host of modern features. It has a 3-band EQ, an onboard boost, drive, tremolo, and reverb, and a master volume that sets the level of the signal sent to the tube power amp section. By the way, there are 2 TRS foot switch inputs in the back that work with latching foot switches. One is for boost and drive, and the other is for reverb and tremolo, so that's pretty helpful. But by far the most modern part of this amp is the built-in onboard cab sim. Here's the deal. You can run this as a standard tube amp with the onboard speaker mic'd up like it is here, and you can also run a DI out to the mixing board or your DAW with your cab sim of choice. Or you can use this amp with headphones so you can practice silently. So yeah, like I said, a Swiss Army knife. Let's kick this off with the mic'd cab sounds. I have my Sennheiser E906 hooked up. My guitar is a custom build by Canadian luthier Nicole Olazanak, and it's loaded with some custom shot pickups from Seymour Duncan. More info about those pickups in the video description too. To start, I have my EQ in the middle, and I'm going to ignore reverb, tremolo, drive, and boost for now. For now, we want to focus on the volume knob, and that sets the preamp gain. Cranking that causes amp breakup, so we're going to try to adjust it until we hear that. This is about at noon. These are pretty low output pickups, so it doesn't surprise me that cranking this volume knob isn't giving me that breakup. But there's a boost right there, and that should help. I would say that gets us there. I like it there. It's again, that barely not clean sound. And let's move to the reverb because it sounds kind of weird when there's no reverb. A little bit. And let's hear it cranked just for fun. We're going to put that at about 9 o'clock. Maybe a little bit higher than that, actually. Forgot what chord I was going to. And let's also sweep the tone controls to hear how much range they give. I find that on the amp, it feels a little bit more subtle than it does in the app, which again, we will get to, but it's all very usable, and I think that's the important part. Starting with treble. Going to put that at about 2:30 for now. And yes, I saw the light change. Going to put the mids at about 2 and hear the bass now. These pickups are a little bit darker than a traditional Telecaster, so I think I'm going to cut the bass just a smidge, like barely noticeable. And finally, the tremolo. And I prefer a more subtle tremolo on an amp. I'm going to crank it and then dial it back to where I like it. It's really nice. If you're already sold on this amp or are looking for anything else musical, Sweetwater is the first place I always recommend folks shop for their gear. Not only is their selection unreal, they always seem to be having awesome sales, and their customer support is, in my opinion, simply unparalleled in this industry. They also send you candy with each order. Rick, what's your favorite Sweetwater candy?
Tootsie Rolls.
He likes the Tootsie Rolls. I like the bit of honey, but I can't eat them. So he gets all the candy every time. Anyway, check out the affiliate links in the video description to see all that Sweetwater has to offer. But before we talk about those onboard cab sims, I'm going to turn off the tremolo and the boost because we didn't hit this drive button. I feel like that's a shame. It's gain. So it works similarly to the boost that it affects this volume there, or at least it seems to. Let's go ahead and turn up the boost and the drive and the volume. I'm going to turn the master all the way down before I do that, because that's could get loud. I actually think it sounds pretty good with the gain up all the way. It is interesting to me that it's a switch like that, but I really don't dislike it. I kind of like sometimes having fewer options, but that's, again, just me. Again, mic'd up is just one way to use the Airwave. I've dialed in a decent sound. We may fiddle with it some here and there, but let's go ahead and hear some of those onboard cab sims as they sound out of the box. So the Airwave's onboard cab sims use the 2 Notes Dyna-R cabinet and microphone modeling system. We can and we will connect this to, not a computer, but I'm going to use my phone later so we can adjust the virtual mic positioning, EQ, have more reverb options, and just generally more. But for now, let's focus on these default cab sims, of which there are 12, 2 banks of 6. When this group AB button is amber, we're in vintage mode. Blue is modern mode. We also have a nice clipping indicator right there, which is really helpful. So something on the back that you may want to use is the speaker mute / speaker on, which, you guessed it, enables you to safely mute the speaker when you're using the stereo, yes, stereo XLR outputs or headphone output. I've gone ahead and engaged that switch. For now, I'm running in mono. Later, I'll be running in stereo. But yeah, I'm going to be monitoring myself through these Mackie monitors you see to my left. Okay, let's go through these modern cab sims and we'll try to cycle through them relatively quickly. The first one is the Phil X64 Super 1x8 combo. Next is the Amulet 1x10 combo. The Delegate 1x12. The Keeley 1x12. The Airwave 1x12, which I assume is modeled after this. And finally, the Thunderbolt 1x15 combo. And now let's go to those vintage sounds. Going back to 1, this is the Vintage Super 1x8. Vintage Comet 1x10. The Vintage Oahu 1x10. The Vintage Coronado Mod 1x12. The Vintage Dual Tone 1x12. And finally, the Vintage Thunderbolt 1x15. By the way, if you register your amp, you'll get access to 6 more cab sims. Let's go ahead and see what the software can do. As you can see, I've ditched the microphone. I now have 2 XLR outs going out of the back into my DAW. So to use Airwave with your computer, the first thing you need to do is download the Torpedo Remote app or software. It's available on Mac, iOS, Android, and Windows. I will be using Bluetooth with my phone because the connection can be either USB-C or Bluetooth. So let's get going. The first thing I guess the big thing I want to show you is how to create a preset with a virtual cabinet. So you can save a cabinet, 2 microphones in their room positions, effects settings, and levels for stereo outputs. So let's go ahead and go up to presets there, make a selection. I had a couple called demo here. So I'm going to hit save and just give this a name. Demo part 2. Saving preset. And our preset is saved. I know I said the first thing was microphones, but actually the first thing is cabinets. Turn the volume up here. We have a couple 1x10 options. I'm not sure what we're using right now, but this is one of them. Let's go with that one. And hopefully you'll be able to see, but I have one of the microphones turned off right now. So this is just the sound of that ribbon mic. dead center, right up against the virtual grill of the virtual cabinet. Click there, we can change microphones. And again, these are all matched to the cabinet, so they'll be a little bit different for different cabinet settings. Sounds pretty good. I'm going to mute that one, and we'll put a microphone B. You know what? I'm not going to mute microphone 1 when I'm adding the second microphone, but what I am going to do is I am going to put it in the back of the cab, which you can see right there. And also, just for the length of this video, just to speed things along, I should say, I'm not going to spend too much time dialing anything in. Just know that you can do a lot of dialing on this. Next, let's look at the EQ. To do that, we can either swipe over or we can hit this view button on the bottom, and that's on the phone. I haven't tried this on the computer, but I would expect that it would all be on one page, but I digress. For EQ, we have more options than we have on the amp. It's a 5-band EQ instead of a 3-band EQ. You have 2 presets. You have tones for guitar, for bass, and there's also a custom option where you can set where those bands are on your own. I'm just going to go with the guitar presets. Okay. I'm glad this happened. This does happen sometimes. I lost the Bluetooth connection to get it back. It's just about tapping back into the amp. It's actually pretty easy to get this set up in general. Loading cabinets. There we go. Back over to EQ. So this is no EQ. That's the EQ with everything flat. It shouldn't be too surprising that it is like, you know, what's the word? Flat. It didn't make a difference. All right. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time dialing everything in precisely, but you can hear, you know, how it works. It's 20 decibels up and down for each of those bands, so it's pretty significant. It's a lot of tone shaping options. Now we have Enhancer, which is, quote, a combination of dynamic and tone shaping tools, especially tailored for guitar or bass. We have Body, which is a compressor with a high pass filter, so it only affects the low, mids, and above. I really like Body. It makes the signal sound fuller, and I love a little bit of compression, at least a little bit. We also have Thickness, which emphasizes the low end. And Brilliance, which emphasizes the highs. Moving on to reverb, we have 12 presets, let's call it, and one fully custom one. There's also a toggle switch there that goes between the bright room mode with lots of early reflections and the ambient mode, which has subtler early reflections and a more bass-heavy response. So let's just listen to a couple of these. Basement. Ambient basement. By the way, if you click over to view, you'll see that the background, the visualization changes depending on what your reverb sound is. So I think that's actually pretty cool. Just a nice touch, you know. Let's go to loft. Ooh. Cute. I always wanted to live in a loft apartment like that, but I think I just watched too many rom-coms in the early 2000s. Crypt. That's a pretty nice looking crypt, I have to say. And I know y'all will want to hear cathedral. That's beautiful, man. That's a plate reverb. Look at that. And tile. I knew it was going to be in a bathroom. I love that. I'm going to stick with spring in the room mode. I'm going to skip the IR importing, which is another thing that you can do that I just don't personally do a lot, so I don't want to talk about it. And we're going to talk about output routing. For most live situations, mono is probably perfectly fine, but since this has stereo XLR outputs, we're using that, so we're going to talk about it. The stereo outputs will send the same cab signal, but the main stereo elements will be either reverb or twin tracker, which we haven't talked about yet. You've actually already been hearing the stereo reverbs, so I hope you were wearing headphones, though I didn't crank that width until the end there. The twin tracker, so you can have either stereo reverb or stereo twin tracker. You can't have both, so I'm going to turn the twin tracker on, and you may have noticed that width got grayed out. So the twin tracker is an automatic double tracker. Here's what the manual says, quote, your mono amp sound is routed to the left output and twin tracker creates another track, a virtual guitarist on the right channel in real time. The slight differences in timing and attack contribute to a beefed up tone and massive sound. There are two parameters here. Balance sets the level of the twin tracker. All the way down, you don't hear any second output at all. Tightness sets the delay of the second guitarist up to 70 milliseconds. That's technically in the range of a slapback delay sound, though I prefer closer to 115 milliseconds for slapback. In my opinion, 70 is absolutely more in a doubling range, a la Les Paul and Mary Ford. That's not where that note was supposed to be. That's a lot. 70 is actually kind of a lot. That's really fast. Also pretty fast. Again, and unfortunately, you can only use stereo for either the twin tracker or the reverb, not both at once. But personally, I think that's fine. A little stereo can go a long way. Let's try that twin tracker with like a really beefed up sound. I'm going to turn the boost and the gain up, and because it says it can give you a really beefed up sound, I want it to be beefy. Turn that up and the thickness up also. I think if you turn up the tightness all the way, like that 70 milliseconds, you got to be careful with that because it can kind of sound sloppy, but it can also sound really cool. It just depends on what you're looking for. If you really like the things like twin tracker and the stereo reverb, I really recommend digging farther into the manual. There is so much more with this app that you can do. And my final verdict on this amp, and again, this is always a personal opinion I'm giving, I think this does exactly what it says it's going to do. I would happily practice, gig, rehearse with this amp. It just works really, really well. And I think it sounds really nice, especially if you can take the time to really dial in those sounds. If you enjoyed this video, please check out the one on the screen where I demoed the D'Angelico Mini DC. Also, please consider hitting up those affiliate links in the video description, liking, commenting, subscribing, etc. Thanks for watching. Thanks for understanding. Until next time, my name is Emily. Goodbye.